We are getting into it with some dry brushing today. In contrast to working on any light reflections for the fire, I'm taking a much simpler alternative to make the model interesting. By beginning from a reddish orangey base tone and dry brushing all of the armor with black, leaving the brighter color to show through on the recesses, so as to represent the fire within. But before going any further, a couple of things to have in mind. The arms were left unglued for easy access to the details. Also, when dry brushing, working just a pinch of water into the brush for extra moisture will help reduce the dusty finish this technique often creates. And in order to maintain said moisture, avoid using a paper towel to remove the excess paint, as it will suck it all out. Try a texture palette, or in my case an MDF board I always work over, and has built up layers of paint over it. For the application itself, I want to hit the edges and panels from all sides. Using a circular motion whenever possible will make it easier. With the black established and an eye-catching inner glow showing through, I'll follow up with some highlights using dark grey, though this time the dry brushing will be done only from top to bottom, so as to hit only the raised details looking upwards. I make sure to make contact with the model only during the downward motion, and taking the brush back as I go back up. Following up with a smaller brush, I mixed in a lighter grey with a colder hue, to add some further highlights in the same manner as before. The cold tone will light the contrast against the warm fires I'll paint later. With that, the armor will be ready, alongside an inner glow which will make it stand out for sure. Everything done through simple dry brushing and intentional brush movements which enhance the volumes and shapes. Moving on with the paint job, it is time to base coat the rest of the details. This will include the metallics, the bones and the fire. For such an eye-catching model, everything else is unimportant, as we will pull the attention of the viewer somewhere else. Though I'll mainly focus on the bones and fire, as these are the elements that truly define the Space Marine chapter. The metallics will simply get a base coat plus a dark wash. Beginning with the bones, I'll orient my brush sideways the same way I did for the base coating. This will make it almost impossible to get paint on the recesses and ruining the previous work. But when it comes to the off-white highlights, I'll also make use of a tapping motion, to create a textured look which will leave some of the base tone poking here and there. Then, heavily diluting a sepia ink and making sure there is not much of it on my brush, I'll add some color over the bones. A wash or contrast paint can just as well be used, but I insist on heavily diluting it, as we're not looking to apply a wash which would pull on the recesses, but something more akin to a glaze. And because of how thin and transparent it is, don't worry about going outside the lines and touching the black or red, as the color is not strong enough to affect it with a single coat, so it will only show when over the white. Just as with the cold grey I chose for the highlights, this is just a very subtle detail that doesn't pop out at first glance. But it is from the sum of these details that our models can easily reflect a higher level of painting. Only thing left is to paint the fire, which already got a base coat of orange to begin with. Moving on, I'll make use of a technique I call the water trick. A clean brush soaked in water will be used to coat the area and lower the surface tension. Then, with a mix of yellow and orange diluted 50-50 with water, I'll get a result similar to a pin wash as my brush touches any of the recesses. The water trick keeps the paint away from the raised details, avoiding the coffee stain marks we would normally get from just applying the colored wash by itself. This can also be used over the armor panels to break the monotony of the inner flame effect achieved in the beginning. Alternately, we could begin from a colorful mix of red, orange and yellow as a base tone before the black dry brush, but I chose to go for the flat red so to showcase more of this technique. The water trick will then be repeated with pure yellow, again diluted with water, but applied only on the source of the fire. That would be towards the bottom half of the flames and near the mouth and eye sockets of the skulls. As I always aim for my videos to remain short, I'll leave other examples of this technique in the description, for you to see its application over different surfaces with other colors. The less yellow present in the model, the more impact it will have. As it is often said, less is more. But what if we go a bit overboard with the yellow? This can be fixed with a quick water trick of red, keeping the water away from the areas we want to remain yellow, and having the transparent red blend everything else back to orange. You may spot some orange around the panel lines, with which I added hotter spots, though never reaching into yellow, so to keep the flames as the main focus. It is now time for a bit of cleanup. I am using a slightly diluted mix of red and orange to increase the contrast in the flames. Using the side of my brush in the same manner as I did with the bones, I make sure to avoid the yellow within. I just have to turn the model around and let the sculpt do the work for me as the brush catches only the raised details. And just as the yellow wash was kept towards the bottom half of the flames, I'll repeat the previous step using pure red, focusing only on the top half of the flames, to finish the transition. A tiny final detail is a pinch of dark brown you may add to the tip of the flames to represent smoke, though I often find this color very invasive and requiring a further glaze of red to blend it. Thank you for watching the video till the end. If my poor explanation left you with any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll get to them shortly.